Discuss the emotional and behavioral changes of Jin and the Monkey King throughout the novel. How do they respond and react to their environments? How are they affected by the way other people treat them? What are the forces that cause them to change from the beginning to the middle to the end of the story? How do the characters in American Born Chinese, ABC, transform themselves for American society? What can be learned from the Monkey King and other characters who return to their true form in the novel? Cite examples with page numbers.
I think one main part is how both the Monkey King and Jin Wang, they both tried to change themselves to like feel normal, like viewed normally with like amongst everyone else. Like for the Monkey King, he wanted to wear shoes and he made himself taller and he wanted to look more like a human. And for Jin Wang, he got like that weird haircut from Greg. And he was just trying to make himself look less Chinese, which I don't think was cool because he's kind of like shying away from who he really is. And he's just trying to like cover the Asian side of him up and not like be proud of it.
Going off what Brendan said, I agree with that. They both like felt like they didn't fit in because they were different from everyone else. An example of the monkey changing was on page 68 when he was talking to God. He's like, or one of the goddesses, and he was like, "What's my name?" And it made her say, "The great sage of equal of heaven." He kept doing that over and over. Make people think that he was not a monk anymore. And an example of Jin Wang was when he changed his hair on page 40. Wait, on page I think it was on page 98. He changed his hair to look more like Greg.
I think an obvious thing was like changing yourself isn't gonna get you like farther in life, like trying to be someone you're not, because like in both cases, like the Monkey King had to realize like he can't change who he was even with like mastering Kung Fu, and with Jin Wang when he realized like that he just being himself will get him farther. What were you gonna say?
I agree with you on that, but for Jin, like on page 98, when he like wanted to change his hair to look more like American, I guess you could say, and then when he becomes Danny on page 194, just like wanting to change like all of who he is because he like doesn't like being seen as like Chinese, and then for the Monkey King on page 150 when he changes back to help him at the end, and then at page 220 when they both admit that like being true to yourself is better than being someone else.
I agree with Brenton. Back when he was talking, I feel like that was the really big connection between the two. They both really had to change their lives because they didn't have to. They did change their lives because they were being like discriminated against. Like the Monkey King was being told that he's like dirty, and like that's why he started wearing shoes, and he had to change how he acted. But like I feel like the important thing is that like on page 143. When the Monkey King is stuck underneath the rock and he has to change back into his true form in order to get free. So
I think to tackle the beginning, the middle, and the end question, I think at the beginning both Jin and the Monkey King are put in uncomfortable situations, and that's being discriminated against and being made fun of and laughed at. And those are all at page 13 for Jin and page 13 for Monkey King and page 30 for Jin. And they both respond differently. The Monkey King actually, through pages 16 through 19, he beats up all the gods and goddesses, and he wants to change so badly, and it affects him greatly. And then throughout, in the middle of the book, you see them both trying to prove like a specific person wrong. And in Jin's case, it's Amelia trying to prove that he's not what Jin Ki was, he's not what those Asians are, stereotypical Asians are, and that he wants to be with her. And in the Monkey King's case, he's proving God wrong, that he can be different, and he wants to be one of the highest gods that there can be. And at the end, I think they change because they had like extra pressure on them, and from either like from someone else, or they realize finally that they should become themselves and not change to prove someone wrong, or just to like get out of an uncomfortable situation that they should become themselves.
I agree with Max, but like some other examples that I noticed were like Amelia was a force, because on page 87 panel 3 we noticed that Jin kind of takes a liking to Amelia. And then another example of how the Monkey King would change would be when Lai Tezo like tries to save the Monkey King on page 146 panel 1. So I think those were two forces that changed him. Drew, you can go.
On page 96, I think you can see the driving force behind Jin wanting to change, and that's, in my opinion, discrimination. He feels for being Chinese and kind of being not normal in society. Upon finishing the book, I couldn't really figure out why they included the part about the Monkey King, because it kind of made me feel like they didn't really need it, and it made me feel like it made the book kind of cheesy. But I think after like considering what the theme is, to like stay true to yourself, it kind of makes people realize that the theme isn't just about discrimination. It's about, you know, being comfortable with who you are. And yeah.
Going back to what Max
Guys,
said.
let Brody go, he's been trying for like 5 minutes.
Okay, one thing, there's not much more to go on at this point. I mean, there's the obvious, you know, that they change because they are discriminated in a way, but one thing I noticed especially is, for example, the Monkey King, he changes back to himself to help Wang Lai, I'm not sure if that's his name, sorry. But and Jin kind of ditches the whole like trying to, you know, reject his heritage for Wei Chen at the end of the book. Like he comes back to that bakery restaurant like all the time, and they, you know, like talk. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but essentially like they kind of have to realize, you know, that like, you know, being true to yourself, like you can, I'm not sure how to explain it exactly, but I just noticed how they basically had to change back to help others. Going back to what Max said about at the end of the book, they realized that like it's okay to be themselves, and a good example I found of this was on page 223, panel 4. The Monkey King said, "You know, Jin, I would have saved myself from 500 years imprisonment beneath a mountain of rock had I only realized how good it was to be a monkey." So this just shows that he realized like it's okay to be yourself.
I think for Jin in this book, he really was trying to like hide from society that he was Chinese. Like in the beginning of chapter 2, like it really shows how he was trying to hide from society and like how he wasn't like the norm. And then when he changed his hair on page 98, like it just showed that he wanted to be like an American boy, and like he wanted to fit in so bad to society. And then like further in the book, like on pages 194 through 198, where the old lady from the front of the book, like how she told him like how he would want to give up his soul. I think like that wish that he wanted to give her, like how he said he wanted to become basically like an American boy and become like Jeremy. I think that really just, I don't know, I think that really showed how he just didn't want to, like how he didn't feel like he fit in at all. And then like at the end of the story, where like the monkey was like, where he showed his true colors when he was like pretending to be his cousin, and like how he thought that him being Jeremy, he should probably come back as being Jin. Yeah.
Going back to what Drew said earlier, I agree with mostly what Drew said, but I don't really agree with what he said about how the Monkey King part was kind of like unneeded. I feel like that kind of like brought in, like, I think the author was trying to get across a point that no matter like what race you are, like there's so many like different kinds of people, and everybody has gone through discrimination at some point in their life, and he's like, I think he's trying to point out that you're like not alone.
I think going kind of back to what I said, I gave an example of Monkey King being angry and beat up all the gods and goddesses as his response to being, you know, made fun of and being discriminated. Jin's response was after like a kind of a small response was in chapter 2 he gets made fun of for what he's eating, and back then in page 89 it's small, but in panel 3 you see him sitting next to Wei Chen, they're talking, and you see him eating a sandwich, and you see Wei Chen eating something Asian and something where he's using chopsticks. And it's just like a small thing that you wouldn't catch unless you look again. And I think that's a great example of Jin's response to being made fun of about that. And even when he's there with his Asian friend who's just like him, he's still eating like a sandwich like a white person would do or something in America.
So going back,
I think Jin's response was to not take it out on the people discriminating against him, but to take it out on his friend, because like his friend is everything that Jin doesn't want to be, so he takes it out on him. And that makes it worse for Jin, because he's like not standing up for himself.
going back to whether or not like the Monkey King was like needed, I think it was good that the Monkey King was used because it kind of showed like that there's discrimination in like different forms, and it's not always just based on like the fact that you're Asian or like what race you are. I thought that it was interesting that in the beginning they both started off confident in who they were, because Jin was raised in like a pretty Asian population part of California, and the Monkey King was just around the monkeys, so they were both pretty confident. But then they started to change themselves based on like discrimination and being bullied. Like when the Monkey King started to wear shoes on page 55, and when Jin changed his hair on page 97 through 98.
Yeah, I think the Monkey King part of the story, in fact, emphasized the theme the most, because he really like embraces himself at when he has to save Wong Tai or Lai. He like really rejects his heritage in the beginning, and then like once he has to save Wong Lai, he uses pretty much everything that makes him himself to, you know, save him. And I think it really like that was the most powerful way of demonstrating the theme of the story.
I agree with Brody.
What do you think
I think the Monkey King part kind of shows how like society shapes everything that we do, like in any form, I guess, like clothes that we wear, the people that we talk to, just the way we conduct our day-to-day life and our culture, and kind of how we stray from being true to ourselves.